Thank you, Desiree. I've just been talking, mouth moving, but no sound. So I apologize. My guest has arrived now. I'm going to bring her on, but I do want to go back over what I was saying that you all could not hear. I am so sorry. Good evening. This is Dr. Deborah Jenkins, your host for Black Talk Platform. And this is my last episode for the summer. I will be back on the 14th of September after the Labor Day holiday. We all need a break, and I am taking mine. Now you can hear me. Wonderful, wonderful. I am so happy to start this Black Women Lead series with none other than Councilwoman-Elect Nantasha Williams. She is one of a wave of new women coming into the leadership at New York City's City Council. And I'm so excited about the potential for her office and her candidacy, how she was a part of the 21 and 21 movement, which was co-founded by former City Council Speaker Melissa Mark, as well as other leading women throughout New York City who mapped out the elected map for New York and realized that women were underserved in terms of representation. So she is one of the candidates that they decided to support, as well as many other leading organizations throughout New York City. And her candidacy was not just a squeak through, her election rather, was not just a squeak through election. She won very convincingly. And so without me saying much more, without asking her the questions, I'm going to invite City Councilwoman-Elect Nantasha Williams to the Black Talk Platform stage for the first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. Can everyone hear her? Because I had problems before. I want to make sure you can all hear. Welcome, Councilwoman. Welcome. Am I saying that right? I've been saying Councilwoman-Elect. You don't have someone in the general.
The real title is Democratic nominee.
Democratic nominee.
I'm not Councilwoman-Elect until after the general election.
Even though you don't have someone challenging you in the general?
Nope. Yeah. Even though I don't have anyone challenging me in the general, I'm not a Councilwoman-Elect until after the
general. So everybody, So everybody, you realize that I've been rushing things for her, right? I want to call her.
It's not just you. It's not just you. It's a whole bunch of people.
Because we're happy for you. We're happy for you.
I appreciate that so much.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I haven't even had Marjorie Velasquez on yet, and she's right up here in my neck of the woods.
Yeah,
and I consider her a friend. She is great. She is great, and we believe that you are great too. We have looked at your website. We see the great things that you want to do. So if you don't mind, we want to just get into some of those things tonight. Tell us, where does your passion for public service and social justice come from?
You know, every time I think about that, I just think about just aligning my steps. So when I was younger, I always wanted to be a judge. So, you know, when you're younger, you learn about these great people in history. And so I always had an affinity to Thurgood Marshall. Okay. And so I always used to say I wanted to be a judge. And then I found out you had to go to law school to become a judge. And then I used to say I wanted to be a lawyer. So I always knew that I wanted to do something greater than myself in public service. And always try to be creative about how I approach solving social issues. And so going to grad school, I got the opportunity to work for the New York State Legislature. And I realized that so much of what we want to see can happen in the legislative political space, but we also can't discredit external influences, right? I believe in an inside-outside game. And so working with social justice activists, leaders in connection with public officials is a sure way, my own theory of change, to effectuate change by working with both parties. So I feel that it's centered around that.
Awesome. I think that's great. And you mentioned graduate school. Aren't you also pursuing your PhD?
Yes, I am pursuing my PhD. I don't know how or why, but I'm in a PhD program for social welfare focused on social policy. So that same thing, how can I use, um, who I am as a person? How can we actually tangibly have best practices to effectuate change?
Awesome. That is awesome. And I believe that is a wonderful field because we have to have policies that go behind the activism. And you're also an activist. Am I correct?
Well, some people say that. I don't really think of myself that way, but I can take it.
Okay. Well, you know what? Some of the issues that I've watched as we've been connected on Facebook, you champion are dear to my heart. In fact, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and it very well could have been last week, when two men simultaneously within days of each other were released from incarceration after both having spent 30 plus years falsely accused. And one was in your district, am I correct? Or at least in
Yeah.
Queens.
Yeah, one guy, the recent guy was from Cambria Heights, the 105th precinct, which has historically been extremely toxic. Um, and it just underscores the need for us to make sure that people have fair trials, fair sort of arrest, right? I always say it starts with a police officer, then we can go and look at the whole system, but it starts with that first interaction, which is a police officer, making sure that we are centering public safety, but also not minimizing the need for us to feel safe in our communities. And I think that's just such an interesting dynamic. Our communities do have crime, right? We know gun crime is up, and we want to be in safe communities, but we also don't want to be prosecuted by police officers.
Right. Because they have a job and their job stops and ends at a certain point. And we have to ensure that that job does stop and they pass it off. This case was, in my opinion, particularly egregious because it was sloppy police work, first of all. And there were, I think they were probably just so happy to have made an arrest. It didn't matter because it was a black body. So it just didn't matter to them. But we know that one of their key witnesses said, well, he didn't want to tell on his friends. So he just chose this brother. And this man
Crazy.
lost 31 years of his life. But thank God his mom is still alive and he's able to get back to living, whatever that's going to look like. So I'm glad you championed that issue. So just so that I'm not all over the place, I did
Mhm.
look at some of your issues that you are championing and what's a passion for you in terms of public service. If we can go through a few of those, and perhaps you can tell the audience what they can expect from from you as an elected official, first for your district, but also as a citywide office. I think people tend to forget that city council people, while you're elected in your district, you actually make decisions for all five of our boroughs. And so you're important to us in the Bronx as you are important to those in Queens, if that makes sense. So one of the things I wanted to talk about to honor your district is your plan for the revitalization of South Jamaica, Queens. Can you tell us a little bit about what your plans are?
Absolutely. So I ran on 27 ideas for the 27th council district that covered a wide range of issues. In my community specifically, we really suffer from housing issues. We suffer from a lack of resources for our young folks. We also deal with a lack of resources for our seniors. We have a very elderly population, and a lot of the services that they need are not readily available or accessible to them, and wanting to make sure that they can stay and live in place is so important to me. My community is a beautiful community, so having worked in other areas of New York City, I would say the top issue that we have in our community is quality of life. Not to say we don't have other issues, but one of the major issues we have in our community is quality of life. And it's not to minimize that, because you know, when you own your home, when you're paying lots of money in property taxes, you want to come home and not see the trash there, right? You want to come home and not see cars illegally parked. You want to live in a community that doesn't have speeding issues. And so these issues are very important. And it's just basic delivery of government services, right? That's the baseline. My
Okay.
community just wants basic delivery of government services. But because we are a population of Black folk and communities of color, we also deal with every other issue that every other person in the city deals with. And I think sometimes people forget, because a lot of the people in the community are homeowners, are middle to high income earners. We do have some low income earners as well. People kind of think we don't deal with the same issues, but we do. We still deal with over policing. We still deal with failing schools. We still deal with the lack of healthcare access. We still deal with housing issues, which are unique in some ways. We have issues with tenants, and some slumlords, but we then also have issues with homeowners, which I feel are unique because, again, when people think you own a home, I think people automatically think you have a pot of money, and that's not true. And a lot of our homeowners are suffering, dealing with foreclosure, dealing with other house upkeeps that take so much money from their income, and they struggle a whole lot to maintain their homes.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear you characterize rather your community, because it's very similar to our community up here, some of our community where I'm at in Co-op City. Quality of life actually is as serious as public safety. When you spoke about the double parked cars, that can lead to a public safety issue, especially if these double parked cars are from potential troublemakers, right? Garbage not being picked up. That speaks directly to public safety and public health issues. And we're in a global public health status right now. And so those quality of life issues are as important. And it's very good to hear you um, um, amplify those concerns, because when you are in a community that the income bracket may be slightly higher, if you're Black or brown, you're the same as anybody else in this city as it relates to services and safety. And so I think that is a message that has to be repeated. And I'm pretty sure your constituents out there will be happy to hear you bringing those forth when you start to negotiate budgets. And I believe you all are doing that sometime in January or something to that effect. But whenever you begin that work, I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to have you amplifying their needs. Now, you also talked about building youth entrepreneurship. What do your plans look like for that?
So for me, it's really about creating space to ensure that our young folks can thrive how they want to thrive. And we're providing tools that aren't just the typical tools. I think a lot of times we tell people school, 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 which is cool. School is school. But we also know that our young folks, especially our new generation, they are, I think, more creative, more smarter, faster, wittier, and entrepreneurship is an avenue for them too. But we often don't give them the resources to really develop their own businesses. So, really wanting to tap into that and provide a diverse opportunities for them to build skills.
That's
Um,
awesome. So
yeah.
does that mean collaborating with existing CBOs and faith-based organizations, or what? Disseminating these funds to build up the youth programming to those type of organizations?
Yeah, it could look like that. I mean, I'm thinking about my good sister, Dr. Jamila T. Davis, who has tons of entrepreneurship programs where she literally takes the young folks to a program and they have a big event. They present their businesses. She also helps to get them funded. I'm thinking of my good friend David Tanis, who also has a huge workshop that he does to provide skills and resources to our young folks who do have these business ideas. So turning this idea into an actual business and taking them from point zero or -5 to 100
Mhm.
is definitely where I want to be. And so yeah, I'm that's the goal.
Awesome, awesome. Now, one of the areas that I do a lot of work around is criminal justice reform, and I see that was also one of your 27 points. Talk about how that looks from your perspective for us.
So when I look at criminal, I think criminal justice is one of the very few places where you can see a disparity, especially a racial disparity, right? Oftentimes we talk about race, we talk about discrimination, but we can't see it. But I think the criminal justice system is one of those places where it's so vivid, it's so in our face. And so, again, from police officer to prosecutor to judge to correction officer to after you've been incarcerated to whatever reentry program to ensure you don't recidivate is sort of my goal. Comprehensive criminal justice and alternative measures to deal with crime, right? If you commit a crime, do we have an alternative option for you? Before you even commit a crime, let's look at the social problems, because it's my view, my philosophy that most crimes come out of another social issue that was unaddressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mental health, poverty, lack of education. And I think those things contribute to crime. And so the more we can address social problems, naturally, in my theory, right, the crime will go down. But yeah, that's my theory.
That's your thing. And I think that's great. I know that the current city council configuration just went through their budget period a couple of months ago, I suppose. And as it relates to police reform, there was some true grilling of the NYPD, which rightfully so, in terms of the reallocation of funds. So you mentioned mental health concerns, and a lot of the calls that lead to people becoming involved in the criminal justice system is for mental health breaks. And so when the thought about reallocating some of those funds come up, and we talk in terms of reallocating those funds to mental health professionals, that becomes a contentious discussion, in part because so many of the calls that the NYPD responds to happen to be people who are having some type of mental problem, not necessarily something that is of a protective nature on the surface, right? It could become dangerous, but when you talk about other underlying causes for crime, poverty is also a major cause for that leads people into criminal behavior. And it's been studied and studied and studied. We know that it is a major issue. When you think in terms of citywide funding, and as presented by whoever the speaker may end up being, how do we begin to tap into the issue of poverty as it relates to criminal justice reform? In your opinion, if you've thought about it that deeply, maybe I'm thinking about it that deeply.
I'm like a person of like research and really wanting to like uncover what best practices exist. And I'm so sorry that I do have to jump. I decided last minute because I'm trying to like get my little free time to come to Martha's Vineyard, and I'm trying to catch Tish James's fundraiser because we have to support our Black sisters. So I'm trying to catch that. It started at 6, so I'm so late, and I do apologize that I do have to jump. But I poverty. When I think about poverty, and again, I haven't thought about it too deeply, but similar to what I just said, when we don't address social problems, and so when we don't give people opportunities to sustain themselves, to work, to be properly educated, to potentially go into a vocational program, then we leave ourselves extremely open and vulnerable to other issues, right? So if I can't make money to sustain myself, then excuse me, what are my options? And so I think that we need to, and this kind of is a part of the defund conversation. So when we think about how we address issues in our community, looking at ways to address the social problems before we address the results of the social problems, I think is a way that we need to think. But oftentimes government is very reactive. And so if we have a problem, if crime is a problem, if gun violence is a problem, we want to react to that. And we don't usually take a step back and look at, well, why does gun crime exist? Why does other various crimes in our communities exist? We don't really look at that.
Right.
We just look at like this. I say the symptom of the disease, but we don't really look at curing the disease itself.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Tony Lindsay sends his congratulations. Others send their congratulations. Thank you all for being here with us. Tony, if you are still there, jump on as Councilwoman-Elect jumps off, because I want to end this at 7 o'clock, at 8 o'clock. But we thank you for being with us.
I'm so sorry that I have to jump. I'm so sorry. Even now, I see people that text me. I was like, well, I have an interview, so I'm here. Because I know, we had time. I'm so sorry.
We will excuse you. We wish you the very best. And
yes. Invite me anytime. I will come back.
We want to hear you come back, because she is a citywide representative, everyone. Congratulations to you, and we wish you the best. Go enjoy your fundraiser.
Yeah, thank you. I want to be supportive. And I said I was coming. So
Thank
you. To come.
All right, go on. Have a good time. Have a good time.
Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
To talk offline. I would love to talk to you more offline.
And we will. Take care and enjoy, okay?
Okay.
All righty. Bye now. So congratulations again to Councilwoman-Elect Nantasha Williams. She tapped into some interesting points about the defund the police movement. Of course, you've heard me say so many times, I hate that term, but certainly when she talked about poverty and looking into it a little deeper, we understand that there are some underlying issues that lead to the levels of crime that we're experiencing. Listen, if Tony can't jump in, anybody who wants to come on the platform, because this is me free flowing right now until 8 o'clock. I did want to address a couple of things. We certainly want to keep in our minds, thoughts, and prayers our brothers and sisters on the island of Haiti. The numbers keep rising from the earthquake that they had last week. And it's devastating. The losses are devastating, and we keep seeing the pictures. I have personally, as many of you have, I'm sure, reached out to Congressman Bowman to see what we're going to do collectively, certainly up here in the Bronx. Back in 2016, when they had the hurricane, we did a huge effort up here in the Northeast Bronx, Co-op City in particular, and we want to do something similar. I'm just waiting to see if there'll be a collaborative effort that we could do with him and perhaps Congressman Mondaire Jones, who covers a large Haitian community in northern Westchester County, New York. We just want to be as useful as possible and helpful as possible. But so while I won't be on shows, I will be on my Facebook and social media, putting updates and sharing with you all where you can possibly donate. There were some issues, I understand, in 2016. We even had issues with all of the collecting we did for the people, and it was such a positive collaboration in the Northeast Bronx, particularly Co-op City. And I want to give a shout out to our in NGO partner for that movement in 2016, the So Send IU organization that has boots on the ground in Haiti and is again providing fulfillment to get needed services, needed supplies to the people on the island of Haiti. That is founded and run by my pastor, the Reverend Dr. Joe Albert Bush, and we are going to tap back into the congressman to see how we can do this work together, because there are so many efforts. I also want to shout out the NYPD, because each and every precinct in New York is taking collections for people in Haiti. Every precinct. So that is wonderful. That includes the PSAs. If you have donations, please, you don't have to hold on to them. Go to your local precinct. Fulfillment, they're doing their own fulfillment. But in terms of what we want to do in our communities, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think we need to collaborate and do this thing together. And then, of course, We are hopeful too that she will be the councilwoman-elect. I think what she was saying, Juanita, is that it's a technicality because she doesn't have a challenger to the seat. It's just that she's the Democratic nominee, and I don't believe anything is going to change between now and November. But she doesn't have a challenger. But that is just the way they have to be referred to, as the Democratic nominee. And she's still councilwoman-elect in my head, and she said as it is in many people's minds. So yes, in terms of Haiti, we want to do whatever we can. Also, on the world stage, Afghanistan, it is so ugly. It's so. Who saw the pictures? Who saw the video of the people literally running on the tarmac, trying to get on these planes, grabbing onto these planes and actually falling back to the ground, and perhaps some to their death? This is really, really ugly. And I'm going to take this time that I have to say what's on my mind and what I shared yesterday, because as Black people, sometimes I think, hey, Tony, thank you for coming on. Hey, Tony, let me finish this, what I was about to say about Afghanistan. It is a horrible situation going on in Afghanistan. But this is not a time for Democrats to be talking about they support their president. Now, personally, and Tony, we could talk about this because Tony and I probably have different opinions. I don't even know because we haven't talked about this. Personally, I think he did the right thing in saying we're drawing down the troops. How many years, unless we're going to annex Afghanistan as a part of the United States, how long do we leave our soldiers over there? Indefinitely? But I believe it's so ugly because it could have been planned much better than this. And even hearing today the Pentagon spokesman saying that they're coordinating with the Department of State to try to do the paperwork, or whichever department is in charge of green cards, or Tony, do you know, is it the Department of State? To make sure, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's the Department of State, yeah.
Yeah, to know that the Pentagon is currently working with the Department of State to get amnesty or whatever documents in order to bring the people who helped our soldiers stay alive over here. They're doing it after the announcement of the drawdown, after the Taliban has taken over, after the government has completely collapsed. It's just ugly the way we are dealing with the situation. And so I'm not going to be in social media arguing with anyone about the fact that they should be prepared to take care and defend themselves. Are you serious? When we stay over in a place for 20 years, destabilize whatever government they did have, negotiate with the Taliban, and then now we're saying we've put $88 billion into training them. Now they're on their own. If you're a parent, you put 18 years into preparing your children to graduate from high school, to go to college, 17 or 18. But are they really ready to fly on their own? So I feel like that's a callous response. But Tony, come on, tell us what you think.
No, listen, not to get too deep into it. It's just that I think that this is just one of the harsh results of American imperialism, because it's like, why are we the parents of all these regions? Why is there always so much intervention in other countries and we're not really taking care of the people at home? So honestly, for me, it's not that I don't care. I think it was a very sloppy, pull out. And look what's happening. Aren't they sending like 6,000 troops right back there?
Right back.
So, yeah. So for me, I mean, I thought it was totally inept. I thought it was interesting, though, that Donald Trump was saying the same thing. He was trying to do the same thing, but he was being, the Democrats were.
I'll go on record and say that was the one thing I agreed with him on. It really is the one thing I agree with him on. Yeah.
So, I just feel like we keep falling for it, man. So, we keep falling for it. I feel like every time. See, all right, I don't want to come off like conspiratorial here on this, but it's like I feel like every time there's like a real issue of suppression of our freedoms in this country, immediately there's some type of a foreign crisis that pops up right after that, and everybody's paying attention to that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Right here at home, they're forcing people, to take vaccinations that are experimental, where there's no long-term data to even know like what can happen to you in the future. And it's like nobody's saying anything. It's like everybody's busy arguing each other, and now poof, hey, Joe
Right.
Biden's pulling out the troops, and hey, look at this. Yeah, now we got thousands of refugees coming into Queens in a matter of days. You know that?
Yeah. I didn't know where they were coming, but I figured they'd be coming into some part of New York City. So now Binga's and Binga's, he said, yes, I do. Now, so let me be clear, everybody, not Binga. I think he understands what I'm saying. I agreed with 45 that we should not any longer be the police of the world. Now, if we were really paying attention, we understood when President Obama was elected to his first term, he was very clear. We're going to end the war in Iraq, but he was also very clear. We're not ending the war in Afghanistan. Very clear, extremely clear. But we were so enamored, we just didn't care. And now, like you said, 6,000 of our troops are going right back over there to try to safely extract our soldiers, our people, our American citizens who work there and who were there still got stuck there, as well as some of those allies. But you're right, Binga, when you say that Trump reached a deal with the Taliban that allowed for this mess to take place. Here's where he fell. He got bullied by his own people in some way to stop the drawdown, right? And it did get passed on to Biden. And so here we are today, done ugly. And I think a part of it is to make a point about 2020. I mean, this is the 20th year of 9/11. Whatever the case may be, so many people have been caught in the crosshairs of this lack of precision in this pullout or this drawdown. And I do feel for the people. But I am B1. I'm B1. You were talking about something. We were supposed to have a session about. So let's
before you go, but before you, I just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
And I'll call it right here today on your show.
Okay.
I guarantee that this is a temporary measure, and the troops will be going right back into Afghanistan, because the United States has way too much economic interest in that region. It's just too much. It's way too much. And for me, the way things are going in this country, 9/11's coming. We're going to start getting inundated with a lot of potential terrorist attack kind of stuff. And then I just feel like this was a temporary measure, me personally, to kind of take us off tangent. But go ahead.
So wait, now we just want to make sure we're understanding what you wanted to clearly state. You're saying that your prediction is that we will have soldiers back over there for some long haul. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So you see Binga's post up here that the Russians 89, but they had no choice but to leave. Why is that? Why is it that they had no choice but to leave? Were they smarter than we are? Or
I think because of the region, I think it's just extremely difficult to take all of that region over. Like they said, they've been trying for the longest time, but it's not that easy. And honestly, from what I hear, that the presence of the United States presence wasn't really that welcome over there. So I have some friends in the military. We talk about this kind of stuff, and they're positive that this is temporary and they'll be right back over there.
Because they've been there and they know it. In fact, one of the members of my church, he asked us to pray specifically for the service people. And I think they're the ones who have been in a way betrayed. They are dealing with so much, the PTSD that still exists. This particular person, he served 3 tours. Can you imagine? You can serve 3 tours in the military, but all in Afghanistan? That's because of the length of time we've been there, and it's just.
Yep.
It's
That's the
horrible.
longest war, right? This has like
I
been
believe
the
so.
longest lasting war.
I believe it is. And Danielle Swinton, she also agrees with what you're saying. Tony, can we shift to what you were talking about too? And I do agree with you when you say that this is like a smoking gun type thing to distract us from some other liberties that we have come to enjoy. And you were talking about, I was saying to my children that, or my sister actually, I was saying to my sister about an hour ago that it's
Hmm.
like they are dividing the country. And oh my
Yeah.
goodness, please don't anybody think I'm a Republican, because they use that language so much. But I can think critically enough to know when some of the rights that we say we enjoy are sort of being stepped on. Please,
Yeah.
audience, talk back to me and Tony, because we're talking about, and this may get taken down off of Facebook as well as YouTube, but guess
I'll be
what?
careful.
We're not scared to talk about something that what has happened is voices have been silenced. There are
Hmm.
no rights when it comes to this particular issue that is of a global nature that we are all living through and we are all experiencing.
Hmm.
Today in New York City, if you even want to go into a fast food restaurant like McDonald's,
Gotta have
you
your
have to
vaccination
show proof,
papers.
right? And so people are saying, unless you want to just pick it up and run, right? But you can't just sit there. Now, most of them have been closed down for so long. And I know in my community, the older people, they love to go in there and just meet up. It's a meetup spot. But the young people do too. A lot of young people cannot get this taken care of right now because they have not approved it for them. So they don't have that as an outlet. And some of them are like latchkey kids. When all the parents are being forced out of their homes to go back to work and their children back to school buildings that are not in many cases up to building codes, health codes, but nevertheless, they'll be back. I feel like those people who have, for whatever their reasons are, and they're not just people who are anti-vaxxers, for whatever their reasons are, shouldn't we care about those people too? That they should not be considered other? Don't we always fight for the rights of everybody in this country, especially liberals, especially Democrats? We fight for gay rights, we fight for trans rights, but nobody wants to fight for a person's right to not adhere to what is being pushed on them through being vaccinated. And I think that's wrong. What do you think, Tony?
I mean, there's a lot to cover with that, but I mean, I will say that like part of this problem, it lies in the language that's being used. Like, if you look, you'll see that there are no opinions allowed on social media or in the media that are contrary to, the narrative, the positive. You're not allowed to say anything about the COVID vaccine unless it is positive. And when have you ever in history seen an entire population only being allowed to speak positively about something? So, the censorship is at an all-time high. I've never seen this level of censorship before. And what's scary to me is that you have so many people who are just so busy fighting against each other and even calling for the censorship that, it makes no sense to me. Another problem I see is that people are so caught up with labeling. Everybody has to label somebody. Like, even when you were talking just now, I know you didn't mean it that way, but a lot of people have gotten so hooked on this anti-vaxxers and pro-vaxxers. I'm vaccinated for a whole lot of stuff. My children are vaccinated, but maybe I don't want to take this particular experimental vaccine. I'm not going to judge you for your decision, but why would people who don't want to take one experimental vaccine that's 6 months old, why are they now labeled anti-vaxxers? And the reason is because when you label people, it makes it much easier to dismiss them and their point of view.
But I think
So
that's, yeah. Go on.
no, I'm just saying I think that's a really dangerous game that we're playing, especially when you have the people, I've come across a lot of people who are vaccinated who it's like once they got vaccinated, they feel like you said, that unvaccinated people are just other. And it means automatically you have to fight against them. You got to battle them. And we're allowing we're allowing the media and this government and these politicians to just kind of pit everyone against each other. And, and while all of this is happening, our rights are being siphoned away.
But that's what I'm trying to say. And so, Alicia, hey, I'm glad you're here. You said that you don't think they're the same. You mean when we fight for I'm not sure in that long diatribe I went on what exactly you were talking about. Were you talking about how we fight for the rights of the LGBTQ? She said, I think so too. I think so too, Celicia. But I still wanted to know what you meant about they're not the same. What she said right here is where I'm at. I think people should be able to do what they want. I really do. But that's the right I was talking about.
Well, people should be able to do what they want. I mean, listen, we have rights, and it's so crazy to me that people just stay calling for this government to take away more and more of their freedom in the name of fear. And when you do that, when you surrender your freedoms to this government officials, they don't give it back to you. I mean, we've seen this time and time again how fear is used to get people to act against their best interests. Now, I'm not a COVID denier or whatever people want to say, but I am totally against forcing people to do something that they don't want to do.
So let's address. Let me try to respond to Celicia's. I thought that's what you were saying. So what I mean is the mindset, Celicia, right? Usually we are all about, and when I say we, I'm a left-leaning person. I really am. I'm a left-leaning person, meaning that I do believe that people have the right to be who they want to be, to live as they want to live. But around this particular issue, the very same people who said what I just said have all of a sudden become conservative in their view. So we were told last year that we needed to get to herd immunity, which was between 70 and 75% of the population receiving the vaccination, right? But now the language is every adult needs to get it. And I feel like people are missing that. People are missing that the language continues to change. Back in May, when I was doing my own research, I was looking at breakthrough cases. So I actually shared the number of breakthrough cases that were coming through. And so at the time, the media was saying, and these are well-respected doctors that they're speaking to, oh, breakthrough cases aren't that bad. They're less than a whole percent. But here's my thing, and I think that's because I give care to people, right? And so do they, but in a different way, in a spiritual way, right? Are you discounting the deaths and the illnesses of people who were fully vaccinated and have now either died or have become very sick by saying less than a percentage? That to me is dismissive of their suffering. And that's where I usually am. I'm about how people feel and the right to feel as they do. And I just feel like that right is being trampled over. So when I say that, Celicia, I'm just saying that we're the same people who fight for equity or equality for people to live as they want. What is different about saying people can live as they want and saying
and make whatever decision they want about their own lives? So
and I'm asking for education. Go on.
Right. Well, to me, I mean, technically, none of it is the same. I mean, LGBT, whatever, the LGBT rights movement is different from Black people. You know what I'm saying? The black people's rights. So it's like, it's civil rights. At the end of the day, it's our freedoms. So I believe that our freedoms are being trampled on. So, I don't think that this discernment is really necessary. But even when you're talking about, when they say, oh, 1% or like barely a percent of people who are like getting, I guess, adverse reactions from the vaccines. I know a lot of people that work in the medical in the industry, like a lot of people that work in hospitals, that work in nursing homes, that work in medical treatment centers, and they're seeing a lot of people coming in for adverse reaction to vaccines and some deaths. And you know, if you check the VAERS report, VAERS, you'll see that there's I think maybe like 6,000 reported deaths. And you know, I do think that people are just kind of like dismissive of that. Now, here's the problem though, because there's no there's no real timetable here, and it's very difficult to discern a cause of death. So a lot of the deaths of people that are happening, like people that are dying right after taking the vaccine, it's not being reported as COVID, as vaccine deaths, because there's no time frame or anything where you really have enough or enough information to technically verify that they died because of the vaccine. So even if you took the vaccine now and tomorrow you die, they're not going to put it down as a death, as a vaccine related death. You get what I'm saying? So I just think all the numbers are a little weird. So, you know, all I can speak on is what I've seen from people that I know, and the people that I've talked to who are working directly in this industry. And a lot of them are terrified. And they're terrified because of this mandate that Bozo Mayor Bill de Blasio just put into place, that's going to be forcing these healthcare workers to get vaccinated, when these are the same people who are seeing the adverse reactions to these vaccines. So imagine how terrifying that is. You're seeing people who are coming in with neurological damage. You're seeing people that are automatically experiencing side effects like autoimmune diseases, inflammation, you know, blood clots. A lot of this stuff is happening in hospitals. I know definitely here in New York, and I know in a lot of places in Florida. So it's like you're not hearing about any of that. And that's the thing that makes this scary, because the media is making everything look like it's peaches and cream and doves flying in the air, and the vaccine is wonderful, and it's always, don't worry about it. But I'm like, yo, did it like just the other day? Like, first of all, if you can still catch COVID and transmit it, why are you forcing this on us so hard? Why? And if you're telling me, and if we're saying there's new variants coming out and you can't keep up with this clever virus, why are you forcing people to take this right now? Right. When there's no sufficient data to tell you about any potential side effects in the future. Why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Celicia and Juanita, they made a good point about how nasty people are. People are nasty. People, no. Oh, people are nasty. Let's admit it.
Yeah. So, no. I hear that. I see what she just wrote there. But coronavirus has been around forever, but not this strain. COVID-19 has not been around forever. And we know that mRNA research was being done for 20 years, but the technology was not used in humans like that for what we're seeing right now. So no. And the COVID-19 virus that we're seeing now, that's a result of gain of function research, where you got animal viruses being made more potent so that they can infect humans. So let me not get into that, but go ahead. Sorry.
So I do want to shift to what Celicia was talking about, because she had mentioned this. I don't know if it was on her page or on your page. I think it was on her page, and I was so appreciative. So Celicia, you should be proud of me. I'm going to show you all my stuff. So she said, let me put her quote back up, her message back up here, everybody. We should be talking about health and wellness, period.
Yep.
PERIOD. You are so right. Obesity, smokers, and just overall, the USA has very poor health. So if you don't want to eat right or exercise or stop smoking, I don't know what to tell you. I almost sound like you, Celicia, but your decision does affect others. And so when you are in public spaces with people at the gym, personally, I'm not going because I do want to stay safe. So I believe, I don't understand the people who are against the masking, but they still are. I'm at odds with hypocrisy and this force through fear. But to Celicia's point, I hope you don't mind me sharing your great recipe for us staying healthy, Celicia. I do this anyway. This is vitamin D. I'm veganish, so these are vegan, and they are made by Nature Wise. A little free advertisement there. Vitamin C. I hate the pills, but I like the taste of Tang. So I have my powder. And this is one that Celicia told me about that I had not been using. Zinc indeed, but quercetin. And I really need to ask you a little bit more about it. I just know that she's been taking it for such a little while now. So since I was buying the zinc anyway, I got it with the quercetin in it. And then magnesium. And this one, for anyone who's interested, is also a powder. It's an anti-stress drink mix. Also, I drink a lot of tea, green tea, as a matter of fact. And whenever I feel anything, and this is, let me tell you, throughout all of last year, I had no choice because my mother was very ill. I dosed up with all of this stuff. When I say dosed up, this is not medicine. These are, vitamins, and they're all vitamins. And if I ever felt any little tingle in my throat or anything, and my sister, I wanted to keep my mother and my sister safe because my sister was my mother's primary caretaker. So we didn't want to bring anything in the house. So we went in and they never got COVID, and this was all in 2020. There were no vaccines to be offered, but there are ways that we can protect ourselves and keep ourselves healthy. And that is what I tried to do. And exercising, you're so right. Exercising, sleeping. These are the true prescriptions, right? These are the true ways for us to get better. We are an obese country. And I think on your post today, Tony, I said it's to the point where doctors won't even say anything about your obesity until you get one of these comorbidities that affects your ability to fight off, your immune system ability to fight off the COVID virus or any other virus. We were talking about that today, remember? On your page.
Listen, healthy eating, like eating proper foods, boosting your immune system. We don't have that type of discussion barely at all in this country. Actually, whenever you talk about being healthy, you get cursed out for shaming people or fat shaming and stuff like that whenever you try to talk about, a healthy lifestyle. So, And when it comes to doctors, I know doctors who say like they've only had like 7 hours of nutrition education, like nutrition training or whatever. So it's like, they're in the business of managing symptoms. Like they're not in the business of curing.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I have to tell you, and I've said this maybe in private before to some people. I had traveled to Chicago in 2019, in December of 2019. And one of the people I was in training with, she had just come back from China. She lived in Seattle. She was walking with an oxygen tank. And we had been there a week. We had not been in a group together until this one particular day. She was in my group. And she kept coughing. So I said, let me get you some tea, some coffee or whatever. And I went and got it. But we were in that close proximity. All the while, I've watched this woman in the training with her oxygen tank. I come back home. The day after I got back home, which was December 9th. December 9th was my mother's birthday. I made sure the day I came home, I went to see my mother for her birthday. On December 10th, I started this cough. And the cough, and I'm speaking to your point, Tony, about doctors. This cough lasted until Christmas Eve. It just got progressively worse. Christmas Eve, I decided, let me go on and go to urgent care. Went to urgent care. They sent me directly to the emergency room. They saw something on my lung. They didn't know what it was. Took me to urgent emergency room. They saw something else in addition to the cough. So the cough became secondary. I went through a month of treatment with them not knowing exactly what was wrong with me. They were giving me everything. And it wasn't until my youngest sister said, I've been having this cough too. Why don't you just try to take some Robitussin and that'll help get rid of the cough. It was like February of last year when this all cleared up. But guess what? They never classified it. Never, ever classified what it was. Never. If you thought coughing your brains out was a thing, that's what I thought I was doing. And so I'm sharing that to say that I believe that I had COVID before they knew what COVID was. And I think it's lot of people like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there were a lot of people. that had COVID. I mean, remember, they were finding a whole bunch of people that had the antibodies when they figured out what COVID was.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people didn't even realize, they don't even remember being sick. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I see
You're right.
someone asked the question, if everyone, oh, you just took it off the screen.
Oh, I'm
Something
gonna put
about
it back. Let me put it back up because that was good, Akeisha. Say it,
if
Tony.
everyone can spread the virus, why are the mutations being blamed on unvaccinated individuals? You know, I don't know if anyone's blaming unvaccinated. Well, people who probably don't know better are blaming unvaccinated individuals. This is why I'm kind of taken aback by the conversation and the way that it's been trending in this country, because there's documented research that points to vaccinations that allow the virus to remain there and be transmitted, being actually the cause of the creation of more of birthing more potent viruses.
Hmm.
So and there, you know, they talk about people that who are vaccinated having higher viral loads. So I mean, from the things that I have, from the research that I can share, I'll put a link below. I
Yeah.
mean, it points to, you know, the vaccinated actually being the like these the Delta variants and these new strains actually stemming from vaccinated people. And if that's true, that that is what's happening, then you're going to see a whole lot more of unvaccinated people getting COVID, and then maybe even getting more adverse reactions.
Yeah, because it's being spread. So, but let me also say this. Look, I'm not beating up on the medical professionals, the public health professionals who are trying to keep us well. I'm really not beating up on. What I am saying is at the core of what I'm saying is we should allow people, for whatever their reasons are, to make those decisions, and prayerfully they will be safe and consider other people. However, I think there's a demonization of the unvaccinated. And I don't agree like the man on that old train, the train that Juanita was talking about. I'm sure everybody's seen that video. He was so rude. He's all but spitting on the woman when she said, well, she said something to him, I should call the cops on you or something. And he's like, my freedom, my free speech, my freedom. That's not what we're talking. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't mean like that. I'm not saying he shouldn't be able to, but I think people should be considerate of other people, and that's just not apparent from people like him. And there are a lot of people like him. Just before the show started tonight, they made a report that Governor Abbott from Texas just tested positive, but he's Mr. There'll be no face mask mandates. Why not? Why not? This is a very public man. He's ruining the state, period. But I'm just saying, use your noodle. You
Well,
can.
well, ask the same question of De Blasio. De Blasio, right now, there's no mask mandates, right? Yet he has this vaccination pass. So according to Mayor De Blasio and this mandate that he just put into effect, you don't need to go into any of these businesses and show proof that you have a negative COVID test. But you can go in there and show that you're vaccinated, even though you might be fully infected with COVID. You could go in there fully infected, spread it to everybody in there,
Yeah.
and you're good as long as you got a COVID, a vaccination pass. And I just think that this guy is so
Logic.
stupid. And
Yeah.
to me, that looks like he's purposely trying to spread it. What other reason is there? You got concerts now. You got the parade going, no masks, but you're forcing people to do these vaccinations, and you're forcing business owners to become health screeners. Like, they don't want to do this. And
And
then
they
when you
will
look
be
at the
fined
news,
$1,000 if they don't enforce it.
yeah, but guess what? There's a whole lot of businesses that would be making a hell of a lot more than $1,000 in that month or however long it is. You understand what I'm saying? For some people, it might even be worth it to take the fine. And
Of
then he
course.
passed this mandate without even giving these business owners any type of adequate instructions on how to do this. Who's going to pay? Who's going to dedicate resources and money to pay these people to stand out there now and do another job of screening people when maybe they might need to be in the kitchen, they might be doing maintenance? Is anybody paying them for this? So
Right.
why not have the Department of Health or whatever and come out there and stand outside the restaurants all day and the gyms all day, and then you do it? Why are you forcing business owners to do that, utilize their own resources and lose money lose half of their customers, and in many cases now lose employees because of a decision you forced upon them. So I don't like the way that, you see the media, the mainstream media, putting all of this stuff on TV, like, oh, the business owners, they're on board. Yeah, you're putting like 3 or 4 businesses that are on board. Yeah, because they probably want to stay in good with the administration. But the majority of small businesses out there, they do not approve of this mandate. Let me just ask this, who is on board with losing money and shutting down their business? So for me, this is a clever way of closing down businesses without actually having to physically closing down. And what's going to happen next? The people are you're going to decimate completely all the remaining businesses that were left. And now you're going to see a big real estate grab. I've been saying from the beginning that Mayor Bill de Blasio has been customizing this city for gentrifiers. And this is the perfect opportunity to do the biggest real estate grab in this city. And people are going to be put out of here. And that's it.
Wow, that's, and those are the big pictures, that we don't see or even consider.
No.
Why? Because we're only looking at
we're busy arguing about vaxxer and anti-vaxxer and these stupid arguments while they're pulling the strings and plotting how they're going to take all of your wealth away from you and chase you out of here.
Wow, it's incredible. And I'm appreciative of your news sources that are not mainstream. The Verse, is it Verse or Verse? That's the self-reporting. That's the self-reporting one. Is that correct?
Yeah, like hospitals and medical facilities, they have to report that, and I think it goes to like the CDC, NIH, and all those entities where they get the numbers on but it's even that is problematic. It's problematic because how do you really prove that? Like, if I take a vaccine right now and I die tomorrow of a heart attack, can you really say it was because of the vaccine? I mean, there's a correlation, but so they're really strict, like, guidelines being put on what you can report as a vaccine death. You get what I'm saying?
What you're saying is that they're constantly changing it so that their narrative can continue to go forward in the way that they want to have it controlled. Because there were months ago when that would have been considered and been able to have been reported as a COVID death. But what about these families who have been eligible for that $7,000 assistance from a COVID death? Now they're going to be butt out, especially because
First of all, people who think that they may be entitled to damages from any type of vaccine related injuries, you could forget that. You can totally forget that.
Burial. I just meant the burial. I don't think that they can get anything with being in the experimental state, right? And I don't know if it changes once it's fully approved. I really don't know if they will probably, because it is this vaccine, keep it so still families cannot sue if, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm really interested to see if this thing is actually going to be approved, because the way that they're rushing and forcing people to take this and coercing people to do this, that to me feels like there's a deadline. That feels like a deadline. Why you trying to get so many people to take this when you don't have any real justification to have them take it? So I won't be surprised if there is no FDA approval and they already got enough people to take it. Because once they scare enough people into taking it, their job is done. You're good. They don't have to do anything anymore.
The question I always leave my children with, and they're young adults now, is to what end? It just doesn't make sense. I cannot even follow the logic of how this is being done. I don't understand. Really, I don't.
The most heartbreaking part for me, and like I said, if you take the vaccine, great. That's your personal decision. I'm all for you. If you decide that you don't want to take that, that's your personal medical decision. That's your right. However, over the last few days, I've been talking to people who have taken the COVID vaccine, and many of them, the majority of them, feel regret when they talk to me about it. And most of them, if not all of them, said that they did it because, I was just tired of all the pressure, and I was scared, and I decided to just do it, before the government comes in and punishes me for it. It takes my rights away and forces me to do it. So that's coercion.
Yeah.
That's intimidation. And then what was also expressed to me is that, like, at least 4 of them, and this is yesterday, they were like,
Okay.
yeah, man, when I sat down to take that vaccine, they gave me this whole stack of papers,
Really?
these consent forms saying that they're not liable if anything happens to me. And, while it made me hesitate, I just had to do it anyway, because I figured, they're going to make me do it anyway. So I did it. So
That's
those are the
unfortunate.
people that they're counting on. And I just think, if you have to be coerced into doing something like that, you should not be signing a consent form. Because if Bill de Blasio has mandated it, that you have to take it, then why are you signing any type of paperwork saying that you consent? Because if they're asking you, do you consent? Well, no, I don't consent, but
But I
I'm
have
being
to work.
forced.
Right. I have to work.
That's right. So I
Look
won't
at,
be signing no consent forms holding them harmless from any damages to me, because no, yeah, I'll take it. So let's see if they give you the vaccine then. Don't sign that paperwork that's holding them immune from consequences. And because you got to tell the truth, right? Are you consenting? Well, no, I don't, but I'm being forced. Okay, go ahead then.
wow.
Stick me.
Look at Danielle's comment. I'm so sorry, Danielle. If you want to share a little bit more, I don't hear a lot of people saying that they've taken Moderna too much anymore, but that's really unfortunate. I'm sorry. If you want to share, like,
Yeah, there's a
why
lot of blood clots being reported from
with
people who have taken Moderna, and I forgot the name of the condition, but it's something to do with like heart, like arrhythmia, or like heart palpitations. I'm interested to know what Danielle's experiencing. I'm also hearing a lot about women's menstrual cycles being extremely, extremely heavy, and there being evidence tied to fertility and sterile. And so let me not get too. I just want to hear what other people got to say. I got it and have no regret. And the hundreds of people I know who got it, wow, hundreds of people who got it? Wow, isn't that something? I don't have regret either. In fact, it's those who didn't, but see their close friends and or family catch this virus, and they regret not getting it.
I hear you, Charlene. That's what I'm saying,
And
Charlene.
everybody has their own experiences, and I also understand that a lot of people who do find themselves, in like hospitalized and in intensive care, a lot of those people, they have comorbidities. They have high blood pressure. They have heart disease. They have certain conditions, that COVID will exacerbate. So,
Wow. I just want to say to Charlene, yeah, I do too. I know a lot of people who have no regrets. And I think we're going to hear these stories go back and forth, right?
right,
And
both sides.
right. That's because there are people who've had near life threats to their lives after having taken the vaccine, and others who have only reported the soreness in the arm, which I'm always chuckling about, but I'm thinking it must be a much more extreme soreness than a normal pain. I don't know, because everybody doesn't report that. And I hear you, Charlene, and I hear you, Tony. And all I am saying is that the choice should still be the person. But you made a good point. It should be each person. And clearly now there are over 100 million who have taken it, and they are alive. And I'm happy about that. But then there are those breakthrough cases too, which, yes, are much lower than those who have never been vaccinated and are contracting COVID. I'm not denying the obvious science. All I'm saying is that the choice should be in individuals, especially when we have 11 to newborns who cannot take it. What about them? Yeah, it's just. Let me just follow up with Danielle's. She said when she got the second shot. That's what I hear a lot too. The second shot. She had respiratory problems, and that's been since April. I hope you feel better soon, and it probably will take a while to get back to normal. It'll probably take a while.
That's actually what I was going to pretty much address, as far as like what Danielle says. Like it's more than just people taking the vaccine and they're still alive. That's because people are focusing on, well, no one's dying from it at a huge rate. Okay, but where is the information to tell you about the side effects? the potential side effects from this, because if anything, that's something that should be studied way more heavily, and we don't, and not enough time has elapsed for us to collect any sufficient data to even come to any type of conclusions. There's no long-term data. The placebo studies are all pretty much crap. And from this experimental vaccine was supposed to be until, I think the period was supposed to be until the end of 2023 or something like that. So why are you mandating people taking now before you even have all the information you need? So for me, that sounds like a deadline.
Okay. I honestly, I'm gonna make a disclaimer here. I am not a medical professional. I am not giving medical advice. We're just really having dialogue. I'm putting Charlene's a response about how she reacted to the vaccine. She said about 24 to 36 hours after the second dose, she did have those transitory symptoms as well, which was evidence of the effects of the vaccine. It sounds like the flu shot, how, you know, for years people said, oh, I got my flu shot and I got the flu, or at least I felt like I did. And the reality is you're not getting the flu, but you do have those symptoms. That's what it sounds like to me. But the length of time, that's what I'm hearing in terms of a difference between what Danielle's experience and Charlene's experience was.
Right.
But,
I'm hearing it being more than just transitory. I'm hearing it. These are like lasting symptoms. And, you know, I personally know someone who has an autoimmune disease now after taking it.
Look at Akeisha's statement about her mom. She said, my mom had heart issues before, and 2 months after she received her second shot, she's been on oxygen and diagnosed with a rare pulmonary hypertension. I mean, it's these.
Oh,
and
man.
So now we also need a legion of medical professionals, virologists, studying the after effects of the vaccine.
We do have that, but they're being silenced and they're being censored.
Yeah.
And they're being called quacks. This is why in the beginning of this conversation I said I find it problematic that only one perspective is being allowed on social media, in the mainstream media, in all media sources. Well, you know, corporate owned media.
Yeah.
There's only one opinion allowed, and that is problematic.
Yeah. Roman said that his arm was swollen for almost 2 months. Oh, see, that is different from a regular vaccine, right? And it was very painful. And he regrets it. He said, I know people that have been vaccinated and they've been hospitalized. You know, that, but for, like I said, in May, I was talking about this because I was doing the research like you, Tony, and nobody wanted to hear it. And now everybody knows the term breakthrough cases, right? Because they being the media, finally had to do their jobs. And if they want to still be considered as credible journalists, they had to actually bring forth the truth and start asking the hard questions about, wait, I got it. Why did I also get COVID? And I appreciate those efforts. They're not strong enough, though.
It's all because of people like the people in your comment section and the people who have been consistent in speaking up. It's all because of those people on social media that it forces the mainstream media to have to say something. Because honestly, most of their news now, they get it from social media. So after a while, it's very hard to ignore. You know, even now with the mainstream media making it seem like everything is roses and flowers in New York City, and businesses are so happy about this mandate. We know, the people that live here in New York, we know that that's not true. But you're not going to see that on CNN and MSNBC or anything like that. They're going to make it seem like a different story.
Here's a story that the mainstream media should pick up for New Yorkers, right? Most of us, if we were really paying attention last year, we know that the first cluster was in where? New Rochelle, New York. That's just above the Bronx, right? It's 2 cities above the Bronx. I go there all the time. I was there yesterday. We're under these really heavy mandates in New York City. It's just ironic to me that where the cluster began in New Rochelle, they are able to walk around footloose and fancy free. It's like 2 different worlds. There's very little masking. There's certainly no mandates like what we have down here. and
Yep.
it's kind of offensive to me. And it also brings me to it started. Remember they had a measles outbreak up in
I
Muncie.
remember.
Remember, and my children used to have their pediatrician up there in Muncie, and I changed because it's just too far to go from down here in the Bronx. But it's a large Orthodox Jewish community up there, as were the people who started the outbreak in New Rochelle. Right? When we're talking putting people into categories, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, guess who's never put in those categories? The Orthodox Jews. They're not thought of in this group. So if they really want to do a real story, go do the work in Westchester County. And I bet if you go up to Orange County or not Orange, where's Muncie, Putnam, wherever it is, Dutchess, wherever it is, it's like a tale of two cities. And I know we're much more densely populated down here, but I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm just asking questions. I would
suggest.
Go on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I would suggest people just look up Dr. I think his name is Vladimir Zelenko. He's a Jewish physician, and he's treated like thousands and thousands of COVID patients. Zelenko.
Is he in the United States?
Yeah, he's in the United States, but yeah, if people just look him up, I'm not even going to say anything. Just look him up and listen to him.
Okay. I would love to talk about the one who I've been listening to for many, many years. And a lot of my naturopathy type stuff, my vitamins and stuff, not that I buy them from him necessarily, because his products are a little more expensive, but certainly I listen and watch the documentation that often comes from the NIH, the CDC, but I won't mention his name because he has been, and once I say this, you can all look him up if you wish. He has been labeled as the leading pusher of misinformation. He is a medical doctor, but who bends towards the natural stuff. So if you just put in the leading pusher of misinformation, you'll see who I'm talking about. But they're ruining people's careers over this. When I
think it's so ironic that CNN can actually have the nerve to be putting out news accusing people of being fake news, like misinformation. The fact that CNN can be doing that, I think that's crazy.
Oh, I don't really watch them. I stay on. If I watch mainstream, it's usually MSNBC, but I guess it might be similar. Before we close out, I wanted to look at Keisha's and Charlene's comment here. So when we think about Keisha's mother and what Charlene said about survivors of breast cancer, and I'm not even sure if the cancers per se are, or in Roman's case too, are a part of those comorbidities that they talk about. I'm not sure, but the heart disease definitely is. So I don't know. I really don't know. She's saying that the greatest symptoms, they lasted 2 weeks. Now we see that Keisha's mom has probably a potential long-term health complication after having taken it. Because let me just say this last thing about my own self. I was never able to be on certain maintenance medication because not of my own issues, but because of medical conditions my parents had. Right. I've always been fortunate to have good enough doctors who said, no, I can't give you this because it could create this situation for you. That seems to have gone out the window during this time. And that's what I mourn for. That type of medicine, that type of medical practice where doctors really turned around, looked in those books again and gave you the best treatment. I'm not sure that with the situation that we are globally facing right now, if we're all getting the best care. And that's really saddening to me. It just is. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. I'll see you all September 14th. In terms of Haiti, if you follow me on social media, I will be putting up anything that I'm attached to for you to make a really clear decision as to how you may want to help the people in Haiti. It's just so devastating. And I don't know what we've missed being here for an hour and a half, but we're just going to keep them in prayer and hope that the aid that is intended for them actually gets to them, and that no one sees this as an opportunity to pounce on them. They've just had their president assassinated. They are hanging on by a string, and they don't need anyone to come in there and misuse them any further. They have been misused. It's almost like they're being punished for having the best civil war ever against their oppressors. But we are here. God bless you all. Thank you, Tony, for coming in. Talk to you soon. I'll see you in the back room if you don't have to leave. Good night, everybody. Thank you all.
Good night.